Welcome, welcome, welcome. So if you're doing Tai Chi or any other martial arts, you're probably familiar with some of these concepts, okay? And basically I just want to kind of present it in a way that everybody could understand. It's really about stretching and relax. So basically, when we're doing Tai Chi, you know, we want to be relaxed, we want to have our energy focused, and the basic principles are, you know, learning the steps, learning the form, learning the format. Once you learn the format, then you can start to explore the format through stretching, relaxing, breathing. So one of the principles that we're going to be exploring today is called Jing, okay? And that's practice whole body force, which comes from practiced whole body movement. So when we're doing Tai Chi, we're doing a movement, we're practicing it, we're trying to use the entire body in a very relaxed manner. We're stable through the feet, settled through the legs, stationary through the hips, moving through the spine, moving through the arms, moving through the legs, okay? So that's full body force. Another principle is Guanxing, which is inertia. So once you activate your movement, then you let it go, right? That's the inertia, right? So you go from full body force to inertia, right? But then there's a principle of Tanxing Chin, which is retraction or flexibility or stretch, okay? So when you bring those principles into play, full body force, conceptually, practically through, you let it go, it stretches until you can't stretch anymore. So depending on how relaxed you are, how open you are through your joints and ligaments and muscles, you could get that full body stretch, feeling it through each and every part, and then you just let it go into retraction, okay? But if you just let it go, then gravity comes to play on it, maybe some tension comes to play on it, but you need to direct it with your yi, your mind, intent. So then you go into another movement, right? And you let it go. And then inertia into that full body force, that elasticity, and then you continue with that, right? So you want that continuous cycle of practiced movement, okay? And over time, as we develop our awareness from the base of our heels all the way out to our fingertips, we can start to really use that in our Tai Chi. And that's where we want to get to as much as possible, okay? So without relaxation, without practice, without intention, it kind of becomes stilted and limited, okay? So we're going to do a little exercise, just some basic exercises to explore that. So why don't you guys line up here, and I'll be here, okay? You could form several lines here, okay? All right, so let's just do an exercise through the feet and legs and hips. So we'll take a nice, easy Tai Chi stance, focusing, head up, tailbone down, relaxing. And once we've stepped out, and no matter what form you're doing, whether it's Yang, Chen, Wu, Sun, Hao, or any variation on that, you're going to come to a place where you're basically hip-width distance apart, maybe a little wider, right? The first thing most forms do is we open up by drawing the shoulder blades back and opening up the front. So we've just created that initial movement, and then if we let it go, it starts to move forward. And then we bring that intention into play. We bring that stretch out to play. And then it goes into that inertia, and then it starts to retract, right? So if we do that again, release, stretch, let go, feel the stretch through the entire back, and then come down. And if we add breath, we could follow the inhale, we could follow the exhale, You can follow the inhale and follow the exhale. Okay. And just doing that movement where we're opening up the front, releasing, opening up the back, releasing. Inhaling, exhaling, inhaling, exhaling. So if we bring our awareness into our toes and our feet, we relax. We're grounded. Full body, right? Right on the feet. As much surface area as the feet as possible. And then taking it up through the legs, ankles, lower legs, knees, thighs, glutes, definitely through the lower back, sacrum. You can start to really direct that energy. And then release. Okay. If we were to take it into a movement through the form, we take a sitting stance. With the sitting stance, we want to make sure we're opening up our back, having a little bit of rounding, bowing in our back. So extending that back. You can stay facing me. I'm just doing it from the side to show, right? And then after you gather that energy, you gather that stretch, you release it. You go into the forward stance. You're feeling rooted, extended all the way out, and then again, releasing that energy, right? Gathering it back in. Opening up your back from the feet all the way through, and then release. And then when you reach the limit of that stretch in a relaxed manner, then you release again. So you can see that elasticity goes in not linearly, but all throughout your body. So one part of your body might be doing one thing, another part of your body is doing another thing, right? And if it's unconsciously doing that and unawares, then you're not using the full potential, right? But how to get there? You know, how to get there over time, right? You know, start out as a beginner, you have to learn the movement, the various stances, the various positions of the arms, the various applications of the movement. And as you go through that in a very slow manner, you can start to bring awareness to each and every part of your body. You can't just imagine it, you have to practice it, right? We have to practice, you know, daily basis, and make the practice not something that's going to make you better necessarily, but use the practice to give you the information so that you get to know what's going on in your body, so that you could start to bring your awareness to all the different areas, so that when you're doing a certain movement, you could use your entire body into that movement with all these principles. Does that make sense? Right? So, how many of you are studying Yang style? So just about everybody here is studying Yang style. So let's take some movements out of the Yang style and we'll work on those. Okay? So let's turn around because the camera's here and Shirley wants us to be able to use the camera into live cast. So here we go. All right. So let's take the first movements. We'll do the commencement of Taijiquan, and then we'll go into in fact, let's skip the commencement of Taijiquan. We'll go right into parting wild horse's mane. Okay? So we're going to say we're over here. Again, build up that energy through the back, and then release. Allow it to go out to its full extension from the foot all the way through the body to the arms, and then start to withdraw. As your body withdraws, your leg starts to stretch. Again, building that energy, coming across. Pivoting, find that energy here. As we build that energy, we release into inertia. Open up the back again, and then release forward. And again, we could follow our breath. The exhale into the inhale, into the exhale, into the inhale. So relax, feel all those areas. Legs, back, arms, head. Now, if we were to take that into the backward movement of repulsed monkey, same idea. Building up, start to release. Directing it, following it through, opening up the back, start to release. And again, we're doing it in different ways throughout the body. So again, allow those arms to move away from the body. Start to move back, but we're directing them with the mind. Looking with your vision over to the left. Looking with your vision back to the center. Looking with your vision out to the right. Looking with your vision back to the center. Then if we turn it into the grass sparrow's tail, gather up, open up the back, release. Throwing those arms out into a circle, and then feel the retraction. Feel the back opening up. Let's come back into that again. So again, form your circle, direct it out, follow it around, continue to follow it around. Coming into the press across, follow that circle around again. Opening up. And then releasing. And then we'll come to settle. And release. Start to feel that idea of, full body, extending out and releasing, right? So one of my teachers said, sometimes we're going to allow ourselves some exaggeration, right? So that we could really explore it, right? So when I was learning, he would say, just explore, move out, see how it feels. Forget about the form, feel the movement, feel your body. One of my students said, well, it looks like we're pausing at places, right? It looks like when you're going back, you're stopping. I thought Tai Chi was continuous movement. It is. The movement's stopping from front to back, but it's moving up through the body, moving down through the body as well, and then following it out, right? So you want to think of your body as an orb. Right? You want to think of your body as an orb and your mind sending the energy, movement, stretch in all directions. Right? Use that relaxation. The more you can relax, the more access you're going to have to those tendons, ligaments, and muscles. Bones, right? Um, so any questions or observations up to this point on anything? No? You guys good? No? You guys, so these concepts familiar in your Tai Chi concept ideas? Okay. All right. So let's take a different movement. Okay. Let's take going from single whip. Okay. And let's go into high path the horse. So as we go into high path the horse, feel the pivot happening on the back leg, feel the extension, and feel the extension going all the way out. Right? So, and then feel the release to let the foot come in, what we call that half step. And then feel yourself settling back. Again, opening up the back here so we can release. Coming up to cross. Again, sending the leg out, opening up, and then release. And then we'll come into that separate right leg. Again, even here, sending the stretch out, and then release. Right. So we've just send the stretch out, released, take time to open up the back, and then coming into twin peaks. Again, all the way through, let it go. And then feel that retraction as it comes back. Good. Opening up the back here, releasing across, that pivot, coming up, the extension, and then the release. If we were to follow into snake creeps down, same thing. Extending, let it go. Find that extension, snake creeps down, golden pheasant, coming up. I'm impressed that you guys do it on this floor. This is like a really good squishy floor. It's awesome. You know, I want to take a fall here. It's good. And then do the turn to the other side, coming across. Again, throw the arm out, feel the leg extending, bring the foot up, release. And then we're going to throw that foot out again. Start to direct it. Let go. Feel the stretch. And then the release. Bring yourself up. Golden pheasant. Even here, feel the stretch and the release. Good. Open up. Come across. Coming into Fair Lady working shuttles. Use the mirrors. You can see. Coming across. Again, feel the release. And then drawing back. Good. One arm's doing one thing. The other arm's doing the other thing. That's it. And then stepping, opening up the back, and then feel that release. Fair Lady working shuttles. Coming across. Let's continue into needle at sea bottom. Even here. Gathering up the energy. Feel the release. And then gather, open up the back. Fan through back. Stretch it out. Good. And then let's move right into that turn. Turn. Parry, block, and strike. I know we all call it different things sometimes. Let it go. Forward with the strike. Separate. Gather. release. And then let that stretch come back, come across. And then if we're finishing up, again, even here, open up the back, release the arms out, and then release, coming across. So, and like Shirley was saying, it's like you come into this and you find out that it makes you feel much better, right? Like you go through it and, you know, it's hard to practice sometimes because we avoid the word practice, you know? So I tell my students, it's not about getting better. It's about familiarizing yourself with what you have to work with and then using it to better your body, your mind, your movement, your stances, your balance, your alignment, your focus, right? But we really need to be those explorers that just take every movement and break it down. And people say, well, you know, Tai Chi looks graceful. I said, well, anybody could do it, you know? All you need is time well spent with yourself, right? You want to take that break from your day, get away from your job, your work, your concerns, the media, whatever, you know? Give yourself that time where you're like, hey, what's going on? And then you explore it. I was exploring with my students. The way I've been approaching Grass Sparrow's tail is I've been really opening up to those circles, right? And of course, coming up, opening up to those circles. And then instead of continuing the circle there, I'm going to change it here. I'm going to play with it here. You know, they're like, well, we didn't learn it that way. I'm like, well, you got to learn, you got to teach, you got to become your teacher, you know? You got to feel when you're not studying with your teacher, what's going on, you know? What would your teacher, you know, what do you think your teachers are doing, right? What do you think these, you know, these great masters are over there doing, you know? They're not like just, you know, doing the same thing again and again. They're exploring, right? They're exploring and developing, and that's why there's all these different, like, you know, each of the great masters has their short form, right? That they develop for whatever reason, you know, save time, go on to the most important postures that they feel. Maybe some part of their body needs it, you know, maybe they need to lengthen, maybe they need to open, maybe they need to balance, you know. So whatever they're doing, you could do as well, right? So that's the beautiful thing about Tai Chi, is that it's an open format for exploration, you know. So again, basic elements. Jin, full body force, right? Trained. We train our body in all these different areas, all 24 postures or 37 postures or, you know, 132 postures, whatever kind of form you're doing. And then finding it that you don't have to force anything out. If you're throwing a frisbee, you let the frisbee go. The frisbee takes off. You're not trying to push it. You're not pushing the frisbee. It's already there. Doesn't need your help, right? Unfortunately, the frisbee will start to feel gravity, right? Well, we feel gravity too, right? I could feel and use gravity here, you know? Gravity, inertia, stretch. And then that internal elasticity, whether you're opening up the back and gathering in, or releasing, closing, elongating, right? Any of those things. So relaxing, taking your time, experiencing, talking with your teachers about what you experience, right? That's important, the conversation. You know, my teacher says, you know, he'll say, well, do you have any questions on this? And people will be like, says then I imagine you think you know exactly what you're doing. And I can tell you right now, you don't, right? So don't be afraid to have questions, right? It might be the simplest thing, you know? Well, you know, I feel like when I go forward, my knee feels weird and my foot lifts off the ground, you know? Well, you don't want to ask that question. Maybe it's not, maybe you're not doing it right. Your teacher's like, well, he's going to yell at you, or she's going to yell, no, no, no. It's like, okay, let's think about that. What are you doing here? You're forward, you're lifting the knee to be able to find yourself into the extension, and you're relaxing into the heel, you know? You're feeling that, and then once you do that, then you could, right? So again, it does come back to basic principles of alignment, where your body's positioned, being upright, being able to move slowly and relaxedly. When we move slowly, sometimes tension comes into it, right? Because we feel like we have to hold. It's part of the process, right? My teacher would say, when you start to experience tension, if you're moving slow enough, you can let it go. Oh, I'm feeling tense there. Oh, I'm going to let my hip go. I'm going to let my back go. Right? So different ideas. Right? Anything? Any questions? Or do you know? Or do you all know what you're doing? No. We all know. It's good. No, it's good. We all know what we're not doing. Well, it's good to know what you're not doing, right? Because then you get to know, right? Exactly, right? So, yes.
So you mentioned the tension.
Yes.
So when you do slow movement,
Yes.
sometimes you feel tension.
Yes.
Is that right? Should we, the whole process, no tension at all?
Well, yes, you want to go toward an idea of not being tense, right? You know, but it takes a while, you know? So when you experience tension, right, sit with it. Sit with it and relax. Right? Try to find those areas. I mean, we want to be moving, but sometimes we don't want to be moving. Sometimes we want to experience that sitting stance and feel where the tension is, right? One of my fellow students felt like the tendon here was shaky in the forward stance. What? Oh yes, okay. Absolutely, yep. And what she would do is she would practice so much that tendon would stop moving, right? She got that specific. She's like, I feel a little movement there, you know, but I want to, so we'd work on it. We'd like, okay, how do you get to that area where you're not moving that tendon? It's going to settle down, right? So piece by piece, right? Toes, feet, heels, metatarsals, ankles, right? What? Yes, breath helps. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope this gave you some information to use. And thanks for having us. All right.
So I think we're just jumping right in, right? We're not waiting for a gong or anything. Okay. So Taiji is not known for animal forms per se. Not the way a related art named Xingyi is. People familiar with Xingyi Quan? Heard of that? It's considered one of the three brothers: Taiji, Xingyi, and Bagua, right? So Xingyi has explicit animal forms like many Chinese martial arts, but Taiji was heavily influenced by the Wushen Shi, the five animal play. So people may have heard of five animal play or frolics, right? Most traditional Chinese martial arts were heavily influenced by this set, which is very old, and there are many versions, many routines of it. And the five animals, one of them is the monkey, the other are the crane, the tiger, the bear, the deer. And while you don't typically find explicit reference to these animals in Taiji, the set and this whole approach has been very influential on Taiji. There's one really key place in Taiji where you see the animals immediately come out. And one of them is named. White crane spreads its wings, right? And right before that, we have what we call kao, right, in Chinese. So in Mandarin, we have kao, right, leaning in. right? The body blow, right? Leaning in with the body. That is the bear. They don't call it the bear, but it's taken directly out of the bear. In any other martial art, they would call it a bear move, right? Just in Tai Chi, they call it Kao, right? But if you learn the Wushen Shi, one of the moves typically is called Kao, right? Or Kao and Kan and Kao, to rub up against, lean in. So, where's the monkey? Well, there's one obvious reference in Yang family, right? In Chen style, they talk about an ape, right? And Yang style, they talk about a monkey. Interestingly, hey Jonathan. Interestingly, there are two common words for different types of monkeys in Chinese. One is the gibbon, and one is the macaque. Yuan and Hao, Ho. The one referenced in the 5 animal play and in Tai Chi is Ho, the macaque. So small, nimble, mischievous, not elegant and upright. That's what they call the gentlemen of the forest, the gibbon, right? They stand up, they look like people, right? They're very well-mannered monkeys, right? They're in fact apes, right? As opposed to the macaque. So the macaque is a small creature, right? Very dexterous. And one of the ways we see the monkey form in things is we see the shrinking neck. Now, if I try to pull my head down into my body, that's going to get uncomfortable really quickly. Right? I don't want to squeeze my cervical vertebra. I don't want to put a lot of pressure there. But I do want to get that sort of monkey posture. So what I have to do is open up my back so it sort of swallows up my neck a little bit. So we're going to do this by gently exaggerating our normal Tai Chi posture. So a normal Tai Chi posture, everybody knows, is chin in a little bit, right? Sometimes they say down, but really back is better, right? If we're talking about anatomy, it's retraction. The head is moving backwards subtly. And this is what lifts the crown. If I want to find the crown, I find the tips of my ears, right? And there's the crown, right? What they sometimes call the martial crown in Chinese, but really the crown is the crown no matter what. You talk to a barber, that's what they're going to call the crown. It's a little bit back on your head, right? Because that's where the whirl of hair is, right? The crown is really a barber's term in English, and it's back on your head. It's not what we would normally think is the very top. So again, very standard kind of Tai Chi talk. But if I want to feel that string suspending me from above, it helps to get some support from below first. So the head moves back. I feel the back, the occipital region, the back of my head open up. And I should actually be facing this way a little bit, but I don't know. I don't know who can really see anything in the live stream or not. Mostly it's talking that I'm doing, right? So the head is going to be back a little bit. I want to feel that open up, and that's really important, right? We talk about the Du channel a lot in Tai Chi, the governing channel that runs up the spine and over the head and down to the upper lip and gum. Du channel is the most important channel, technically a vessel in Chinese medicine, which means it's at a deeper level of organization than the channels that run through my arms and legs and whatnot. And if I want, there's a few key places where qi flow gets obstructed along the Du vessel. One is at the very tip, the tip of the coccyx. That's right at the beginning of the Du vessel, where it's emerging from the deeper body and the perineum area and starting to move up through the spine. One's right in the middle of the lower back, right? The Ming Men, or the Gate of Destiny. Sounds very dramatic when I say it that way, right? And right between the shoulder blades, and really anywhere along the spine where the paraspinal muscles are sort of squeezing the spine. Jia Ji means simply to squeeze the spine, right? And then up at the base of the head, right? They don't always mention the 7 cervical vertebra here, but the base of the head, the whole occipital region is one of the classic places where it's hard to feel things flowing freely. So opening up this place through my head carriage is really important. So put a finger there for a moment. Right down the center line of your head, right till where it just falls in. Right? You'll feel a little bump at first. Right? There's a little protrusion right before it falls in, and then there's 2 little slight hollow spots below that. Right? There's one small hollow spot right below that slightly pointed bump. And then a little bit below that, there's a little deeper place. So there's actually 2 acupuncture points there. I call them acupuncture points, but really they're just called channel cavities because they don't just belong to acupuncture, right? They belong to martial arts, they belong to massage, they don't belong to acupuncture in any significant way. So feeling when my chin comes back, feeling this point rise and feeling that open, feeling the subtle stretch and a kind of subtle gliding movement. Your skull sits on the top of your spine on a literal gliding joint. And I said this in the previous workshop, it's like a lazy boy chair. You can be in the reclining position or you can be in the upright position. So for Tai Chi, I want to pull that lever and sit the chair up and be sitting nice and tall. It starts there. That will give me lift in my upper back. And here in the monkey, we want to slightly exaggerate that lift of the upper back. Part of the way I'm going to do that is by sinking down a little bit. Think of just dropping your head toward the floor, lowering it down gently. Your head closer to your heart is one way to think about it. The monkey is associated with 2 major organ systems in the 5-animal play. There's sort of 2 big schools of the 5-animal play. One of them associates the monkey with digestion, the stomach and spleen, the Chinese spleen. And the other associates it with the heart and the mind. Really, no matter which version you're doing, it's both of these things. So think of dropping your head towards your heart a little bit, softening your knees and hips. Right? You don't have to get really deep, but do imagine yourself small. Right? And as I sink down, my back opens up and becomes a little rounder. But I don't lose that sense of lift here. And that's the tricky part. I want to drop my head, but it's as if, again, that image, the very common image of the head being suspended by a string, it's like somebody's just lowering the marionette towards the floor. The head is suspended no matter how far down you go. So we're going to pair up a little bit. So whether you know somebody or not, find somebody who doesn't look too threatening. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my hand on somebody's back. So I'm going to turn you around a little bit. And find that big bone right at the base of their neck. Find the top of their shoulder blades. Right? You can feel the bony part. Just put a hand there. And now, as you bring your chin in and your crown up, and now as you bend your knees and your hips and you sit down a little bit, I want to feel this become a little bit more round. And that might be very hard to do. So put your hand on my back for a second. So it's very easy to sort of move your head a little bit and nothing happens there. Put your hand a little bit lower. Yeah, you want to be like T1, T2, the top of the thorax, not in my neck. And I can move my head and nothing really changes there, right? I can bend my knees, nothing happens. Now, put your whole hand there so you can feel the big shape change. Now, when I do this, feel that shape change? This is a hard part of the body to get to move. For most people, we're really stuck here. It's hard to get this response. It is. Yeah, so everything moves. Everything, right? So your thoracic spine, your rib cage is rounded this way, right? They call it kyphosis. And so I'm increasing the curvature of my upper back subtly. My lower back, which we're not talking about too much right now, is actually reducing its curvature, right? Everybody knows about the Tai Chi tuck, right? Terrible word, tucking under the tailbone, right? It encourages tension, right? Like holding and tension and whatever. My teacher, when he first came to this country and started learning English, would say, you can't tuck the tailbone, right? He was teaching Bagua, right? So walking, right? So tucking. So you can let the tailbone drop, right? You can let this curve in the lower back just ease and just iron itself out. Just let the weight of your hips drop down. Nice and loose. Let this open up, the lower back nice and open, relaxed, loose on the outside. On the inside, full and supportive and strong. The kind of strength that just emerges spontaneously. And so this is all just standard Tai Chi talk, right? Standard Tai Chi posture. A monkey is a subtle exaggeration of that. So, anybody want to put their hand on my back? Because my teacher used to say, feeling is believing. Because if you don't feel it, it's very hard to know what you're going for. So here's nothing, right? Moving my head back, bending my knees, nothing, right? As opposed to
little rounding there.
yeah, so not a big movement,
Can I
right?
try?
Yep. Put the flat of your hand.
Trouble
Okay.
getting big movements.
Yeah.
Feel that change?
Yeah.
So yeah, if you look at the upper flat thorax, it looks like flexion, but it's really kyphosis, right? Which is a kind of flexion.
Yeah, I'm wondering what it is.
Right, put your hand on my lower back.
Yeah, well, that I see.
Right, but if
Lower back, you're actually moving your pelvis.
it's posterior tilt.
The posterior.
Yeah, it's posterior.
Posterior tilt.
Yeah, yep.
Can I try to you, right?
Right. So here you feel my shoulder blades are kind of close together, right? Feel just a little round, and you can see the chest. The chest is not sagging, right? And this, when I first started doing this stuff 30 plus years ago, every book was confusing. Every time you heard anybody talk about the chest, they'd say, hollow the chest, depress the chest, right? And then you'd meet Tai Chi Chinese teachers, native Chinese speakers who go, what do you want to kill yourself? Right? You got too much of this already, right? This is not good posture. This is nobody's idea of good posture, right? So this feels enclosed, right? Gathered within the body. So let's do a real monk. It opens, yeah. So I could say I'm widening that, or I could just say it widens, right? I really prefer passive language. Right? Yeah, it opens, spreads. So they say in Chinese, ba bei, the back lifts, right? So what they really mean is the upper back lifts. So let's take one of the modern monkey movements, right? From the state-approved 5-animal play. State approved. Where we grasp and we draw up from the ground, right? And this also relates to the first workshop I did when we were talking about lifting up through the body, right? So you can imagine drawing up through your feet, and what I didn't talk about earlier today is even drawing up through the pelvic floor, a subtle lift in the pelvic floor. Not quite a Kegel, right? Because if anybody learned Kegels, that's about squeezing and bearing down. This is more a gentle lift. And less lifting my hands and more sort of lowering my body into my hands. Right? So lowering my head, just lowering the whole marionette, right? So that height is absorbed in my ankles, my knees, my hips. That can actually help me drop the tailbone down under my body, that posterior pelvic tilt, open up my lower back. And finding the neck just disappears into the back a little bit. The neck is gathered in and drawn in. Right? Now, in the state-approved exercise, we would then look left and look right, right? Get a little work in that's the monkey. Now something is happening in our feet also, right? So as I squat down, I may feel the arches of my feet lifting, like I'm grabbing the floor a little bit. On this soft floor, it's really easy, right? And then as I release down, so what I see in my hand is happening in my feet, right? That gathering up into the arches and that releasing back down. So where do we do anything like this in Tai Chi? They tell you right in the name of the form. Where do they talk about monkeys? Where do they talk about monkeys in the Tai Chi form? Repulse the monkey, you're getting rid of the monkey. But what nobody realizes, it's a homeopathic treatment. You're fighting monkeys with monkeys. So yes, yeah, it opens. It opens. The back rounds, right? The back opens, yeah, the upper back rounds by rounding, right? It opens by rounding. The lower back opens by squaring, right? This is Chinese culture 101, right? Heaven is round, earth is square, right? Think of any old Chinese coin you can think of. A square hole and a round, that's heaven and earth, right? So when my pelvis rotates back, my lower back flattens out, right? I reduce my lumbar curvature a little bit. I'm increasing the thoracic curvature slightly. I'm flattening the lumbar curvature slightly. And that's heaven and earth. So the neck is going to gather in, it's right? It's going to gently gather in, but it has to stay light and open. That's why I started talking about this point. If my neck feels closed and crunched in, that's not good for me, right? So in Repel Monkey, we have a knee lift, right? So instead of squatting down really far, I'm just flexing my hips on one side. But how do I get that leg off the ground? I sink into it. I sink into one leg. There's the squatting action. It doesn't necessarily have to be really visible, right? It doesn't have to be a big, obvious squat. And that gathering up action is seen more in one leg than the other. It's still happening, right? I'm still releasing down through both hips. I'm still gathering up through both feet, but they look very different on the outside, right? So there's a big, obvious yin-yang difference in the two sides. But internally, there's something very similar about, right? I'm relaxing down through both hips. I can feel it in my hip joints, the qua, right? The upper thigh, hip, pelvis. So we're just going to take that official monkey movement and mess it all up, right? We're just going to invent our own movement. Really, it's not. It's just an exercise from a different set. Because you can't make a single change in anything in Qigong or Tai Chi or whatever without just reinventing the way somebody else does it. There's so much variety. It's one of the things I like about it. Now, what else do we do in Repel Monkey, right? And I don't know who picked that word repulse. I always thought like, oh, we just want to gross the monkey out. Now, what are we really doing? Repulse. So it sounds like Iron Man. Repulse the monkey, right? Repel seems like a word I would have chosen, but once things got into English, they sort of stuck. We have that big opening movement of the arms, right? And then we gather in again. So as we gather in, let's find that flexion, that monkey shape, right? And then we release it, open, and then coming back. So we're just going to exaggerate the way we might normally do this movement, right? We might do it nice, even, one height, right? A lot of people, they do their Tai Chi, they just float one level. But here, we're going to exaggerate the hip action, exaggerate the pumping action, right? Think that when you're doing Tai Chi, you're like pumping water out of the ground. Right? And again, if I exaggerate the monkey character of the movement a little bit, it becomes a little more playful. I'm opening my back a little bit more, and I'm really gathering the front line, including the Ren channel, right? Lengthening the do, gather. And then as I open up, I'm opening up the Ren channel, and the do channel is relaxing back to a shorter line, right? So in these movements, you talk all day about all the different ways you're pumping things, right? Now often we gather up onto one leg, right? And then some people do a big leg lift, some people do a small one when they do their form, right? But everybody lifts their foot to step back. There's no way around it, right? So the same kind of gathering in. Right? If I exaggerate it a little bit, there's my monkey, right? Feel how much contraction there is. Gentle, right? Unforced. But gather everything in. The monkey helps. And then release, turn back. The monkey, right? Release, turn back. So if you're familiar with other Chinese martial arts and things, this looks very monkey, right? It's just that in Tai Chi we make it all very elegant, right? We hide everything inside, right? So, then I'm just, right? Oh, there's no monkey anymore, right? What happened to the monkey, right? It's still there, right? If you can put it in there, if you can develop it. Right? So by exaggerating things a little bit and looking at the monkey helps us dig a little deeper on this movement and feel some of the basic dynamics. So let's think about how the monkey moves in application. Right? So here's another thing where we can work with each other. If you just grab my wrist, right? Monkeys are very grabby, right? So that's why they pick the macaque. Right? They steal fruit, they steal people's bags, right, and run off. So I'm repulsing the monkey, right? He's the monkey. But again, how do I fight fire with fire, right? There's the turn. Oh, Tai Chi, we all know about turning, right? There's the spiral. We all know about spiraling. But how about that gathering in, right? Now makes a difference, right? The turn is external. Even the spiral is relatively external. But if I, right? Then I can capture the person's center, right? And if I don't capture his center, I'm out of center. That's the rule. Two people can't be in center at the same time, right? I can turn, I can spiral, but he's got me, right? But if I capture, there. And that's all I want, is that half an inch of movement, right? I want to see him, right? Because that means top heavy. I remember, I think it was Feng Zhichuan's book on Chen style application. One of those little cheap paperbacks that came out, like 30 years ago. But he applies everything throughout the whole Chen family form, and every single one of them is like, A does this to B responds by this, and A returns, and da-da-da. And the very last line on every single application is then B's breath floats up, his chi floats up. That's it. Nobody's on the ground, nobody's punched, this and that. It's just like, because the implication is once his chi goes up, you can do whatever you want. Right? So that was very funny. So see if you can't do this. Again, just you just grab, just reach across and just a normal grab, like, yeah. So you don't even have to pick your foot up off the floor, right? Don't have to be fancy. You do want to put your weight on the back and just, right? If I grab you, you're gonna just turn from me. Yeah, turn from me, turn away. Yeah, I've got you. You gotta take your arm with you. No, don't yank it back. Don't yank it back. Do it from here, like the monkey. Be the monkey. And then look, right. Don't look away from me though. Right. You better look right at me because I'm not trustworthy. Right. You can tell right away. Yeah. So sit back. No, don't pull with that arm. Trust your body will be enough. So just connect your arm to your body and round your back. Sit back. Yeah, do the monkey. You're still pulling with your arm. Yeah. What time are we at? Does anybody have their?
You're just pulling you off balance, just right leaning back.
Yeah.
Balance.
What time is it?
We're at 17 after.
So we're done, yeah, right? Or I'm not sure of what the schedule is currently, so.
Shifted.
Yeah, okay. So we'll finish up. So.
The word you said was once I do this, I have you off balance.
Do this, do this. Think of the form. Don't do it hard. Don't do it fast. Sink heavy, heavy. Do your body, your body.
Just getting you.
Here, you hold me. I don't even have to hold you, right? I can just. But don't give it to. Don't give it to me. Like, make yourself firm, right? Right. That's repel monkey, right?
But it's not the foot. It's just once you turned, you got me.
It's this part. Don't be distracted by the turning. Okay, thank you.
Welcome, welcome. Let's start our silk reeling workshop. Just come close enough so you can hear. Just have like an arm's space so that if you move around, you're okay. I won't bite, I promise. So as I was saying, silk reeling, Chen Su Chin, that's incorporated and a fundamental of any Tai Chi style. You know, Wu style, you might see it more, the silk reeling upper. Chen style, it might be more lower. Yang style, it's just basically silk reeling like the silk cocoons when they're unreeling them nice and smoothly. So your motions want to be smooth and slow and circular is what we're striving for. So these are some fundamental exercises. So first we're going to step a comfortable a little wider than hip side, and I'll be your mirror image, I guess, is easiest. So if you put your left toe out a little bit and your left hand out, your right hand can, you know, rest on your waist or a little lower. And basically, especially in Chen style, you want what's called pung, an outward warding off. So if my toe is out here, I'm like letting the energy spill out. So that's why that left side, the toe, the hand is going to sit. Okay? That encourages the chi, the internal energy, to go all the way out through the fingertips. If I don't let the wrist sit, it says chi be in the arm. Here, you just settle. Okay? We're going to do what's called single hand front silk reeling first. So as far as the position away from your body, it's as if there's a wall or a mirror a few feet away, and that's where your hand is going to trace. You're not going to turn your waist so far so that your hand goes parallel to your body, next to your body. It's just out. So there's a little more weight on that left side where your palm is out, and try to extend. You're not going to lock, but you're not going to be in here. Believe it or not, you'll be less tired if you extend. You're going to lead with the pinky, just letting it come down to the center, and your weight is shifting. Now, as you shift up, the weight shifts. And turn your hand, rotate it out. It's Chen style, so palm is out. And then down. So we're making a circle if the center of the circle is your shoulder. I know many times we think with our eyes and we say, well, this looks like an oval. Well, it does to your eyes, but you're just tracing that front circle on a wall ahead of you, leading with the pinky down, weight shift, then weight shift the other way, and turn across. So really this single hand, when it rotates palm out, here then it gets to go the whole arm across your body. Good. One more. Relax. Good. You can come in. Now, before we go to the other side, the other hand on single, I want to explain what happens with the weight shift and the legs. You're not doing a pendulum side to side. What you're doing is an infinity symbol, like a sideways 8. So for instance, if your weight is mostly on one leg, that's like as far as I can shift. Now you're going to turn your hip back, and then you're going to settle through to the other side. And then it's like turning a doorknob and go through, and turning a doorknob and go through. Your feet are going to be flat. You're going to feel that weight not only shifting side to side, but settling back. Then I turn, settling back. And when I come back, it's almost as if I'm on a swing, and you just let that swing come back. The goal over time, or if you've been doing this a while, is to keep every plane level, parallel. So you're not going to think, oh, head, shoulders, knees. Whatever place you can best connect with. Maybe it's your shoulders. Maybe it's your hips. Maybe it's the top of your head. Some people, it's like the pressure on their feet of how it changes. So that pressure goes around the outside, through the middle, from the big toe, around the outside to the heel, and around. And this fundamental pattern with the lower body is going to take place, relax, in every Tai Chi, every silk reeling exercise we do. It will always be the same. So if you're trying to practice on your own, or even during the workshop, and it's like, oh, I just feel like I'm leading with my arm and my body's not connected, put the arm down and go back to the fundamental. Okay? So now you're going to use your right hand. So the right toe is a little out, the left toe is straight forward. And again, extend that arm, but keep your body hanging up from a string. So pinky settles down like it's knifing through, turn the waist. Now shift the weight to raise it. Then twist. Settle. Shift the weight, that raises the arm. Then palm out to protect. And again, this is all at a plane ahead of your body, a foot or two ahead of your body. Good. And again, in Chen style, when we do like this motion, you know, you're probably seeing wave hands like clouds with two arms. Chen style, we do it with palm out. Yang style, it's done with palm in. One more. Good. Okay, relax. So far so good? All right, let's add two hands. Now, if your mind keeps flipping from one hand to the other, yeah, you're going to make it difficult. It'll be like, you know, a pinball game or something like that. So I just want you to think with two hands, keep comfortably apart, and it's kind of like both toes, sets of toes are facing forward. The low hand is an inch or two below the navel. The upper hand, you're weighted more there. All right? Now, just set that and then turn. So you have a low hand and an upper hand, and they're both out in front of your body. And your elbow, your upper elbow is dropped lower than your wrist. That keeps your shoulders comfortable. And it keeps, again, in Mandarin we call it peng. You can think of it as an outward warding off force, like you're protecting your sphere around you. And the driver is the lower hips and the waist. That's kind of like what's moving the power of the arms. I tell my students often it's like your body is the kid running, holding onto the string, which is your arms, and your hands are the kite. The driver's the kid who's running. Okay, the kite is the last thing to follow. So here in this silk reeling, your lower waist turns first, and that's what brings your arm around. And lastly, your hand. One more each side. Good. Relax. So, those are 3 front silk reeling exercises. The single hand, the thing to remember, whatever hand is out, that toe's out a little bit, and the arm is in line with the leg, and you sit the wrist. Don't be collapsed. You might say, I'm tired today, I'm going to be collapsed. Well, actually, that's going to be more energy because the gravity is going to be pulling down on your elbows. If you extend, which is different than locking, if you extend, it's like now your back gets involved. It's like you have that arch. You know, some of us call it the 3 bows. The bows of the leg, the bow of the spine, and the bow of the arms. If you collapse, you've really disconnected at the shoulder versus, oh, now my body is connected. So we did single hand each side. We did 2 hands in the front. Now we're going to learn a side silk reeling pattern. Okay? Again, I'll be your mirror image. So you're going to take your left toe and put it out and put the 2 palms pushing out a little bit, as if you're encircling a ball. You're not spread out this way, but, oh, there's a little roundness here. Then step the other leg and step out to where you're comfortable. On a diagonal with your toes. Good. So have your weight in the back leg. If you're not there, put your weight in the back leg. Now we're going to turn a little bit to the back and then let the hands go lower and then they go to the front. So this is side silk reeling. It's as if my fingertips are tracing along a wall that's to the side of me. Shifting the weight forward when the hands are low. Shift the weight back to raise the hands. Turn the palms out. Weight's in the back. Now it's shifting forward. Shift the weight to raise the hands. Your lower body is doing that same infinity pattern. One more. Good. Relax. So from a martial standpoint, you know, this going back to hands is what we call a loose. Somebody came and, you know, tried to punch, or they're putting their body there, and instead of me standing there and taking it, I just deflect them out of the way. And again, it's not that I'm pulling them back. You want to keep your hips and your shoulders connected so that your whole body, I mean, you know, I lift a lot of forks and knives. I don't want to disconnect and just use wimpy arms. Here, it's the whole body. So that coming back is like roll back. In Mandarin, they call it a lu. And then throughout you have pung, but if we're going forward, that's that pung, that, you know, stay back, ward off, coming back, lu. We're going to do the other side now. Does anybody have any questions so far? You know, everybody looks like you're doing great. Yes, it's a bow stance. So it's as if you were trying to stretch a leg. One toe would be forward, the other toe would kind of be at a diagonal. And you have space, like say there'd be a ball that could roll between your feet. You don't want to be narrow here. Tai Chi, the bow stance, that's usually the stance where, you know, you can twist and turn and keep your balance most. Empty stance, bow stance, infrequently horse stance, double weighted. So yes, it is going into a bow stance. So let's go to the other side. A bow stance, let your elbows relax. Your palms are out, not spread too wide, because this is, if I can demonstrate, wrist and elbow. That's why I have this nice round pung, okay? Warding off energy, sorry, I go Mandarin a lot. Come back. By the way, you know, my background, I've been doing Chen style with Wang Haijun and Chen Zhenlei for, I guess, about 25 years. That's the main style, but I also teach Yang style, Sun style. I live in Wallingford. I have an outdoor class in New Haven, Hamden. But that's the background. So coming back, settling, forward, and then shift the weight first and rotate the wrists, then turn the waist. Shift the weight back to raise the wrist. And again, elbows are lower than wrists when you're on the upper part, so your chest and shoulders stay nice and relaxed. One more. Good. Relax. So again, your body, the lower body, is doing that same figure eight pattern. You kind of shift the weight back like you're in like a swing, then turn, like turning a doorknob or a jar lid, then shift. When you get to the end, you turn. Get to the end, you turn. Any pattern and any, you know, Tai Chi form, when you silk reel, that's what the lower body is going to be doing. Okay, let's do a single hand side silk reeling. We'll keep the toes parallel on this one. And your arm will sit out. I'll be your mirror image. So this is your right hand. Let the wrist sit. Don't be collapsed. Don't be locked. Be extended. Like say you're a garden hose and somebody turns on the water. The hose goes not quite straight, but it fills. All right. The wall on the side is what we're tracing. We're not going to turn the waist too far and bring our hands off the wall. Our hand, rather. You can rest the other hand on your hip if that's comfortable. Turn back and then shift. Then rotate the hand. Rotate the hand. Let the pinky drop down first. Then the palm is going forward. Go up, then rotate the hand. Now when I say up, you don't want to be above your head. You know, the highest your fingertips are going to be is about eyebrow level. Because again, Tai Chi is a martial art. Even if you want to practice nonviolence and just do the moving meditation, form follows function. So you're protecting your body. One more. Good. Before we do the other side, I just want to explain. You know, again, there's the roll back or the lu on this part. Somebody's trying to punch. Ooh, I got him, you know, out of the way. Then there's the forward ward off, the pung and lu. But you're trying to make it circular. It will look like your impression will be, it's not a circle, it's a squashed oval. That's because of your eyes. The circle, the center of the circle is that shoulder. And so then you see, oh, it is a circle. Okay, so I just want to get that mental understanding. Let's change to the other foot. So there's more weight on where the upper hand is, a little more weight. Turn, and then shift the weight. Shift the weight to raise the arm. Turn, shift the weight as the arm comes forward. Again, trace along a wall that's parallel to your side. So that arm, there's space in your armpit, like the size of a fist or an orange. You're not collapsing. And you're not bringing your hand in front of your chest at all. This isn't a block. And one more. Good. So we've done side silk reeling now, each side. And again, it's as if there's a parallel wall. Your fingertips are on the wall, the pinky settles down. Shift the weight to raise it, and then you rotate it when it's in front. We're going to do two-handed side silk reeling. So again, you're just going to think there's those parallel walls out to your side. Don't over twist, because then, you know, you don't have these walls. Pretend you're like really in a narrow hallway. Okay? Set one hand out in front, the other hand down, and just, I want you to feel that your back has a little bit of a curve, like a turtle shell. You're not going to hunch, but you're not going to be, oh, good posture, young lady or young man, chest out. You want to have that relaxed so that your internal energy, your chi can settle down, and your biomechanical structure is good. Okay, turn. So again, about eyebrow height, and the lower hand is about hip height at its lowest. So for instance, when the low hand's going forward, that could be like a groin strike or a protection strike forward. The upper hand, when it comes back, is like a rollback. You know, you're deflecting somebody who's coming in at the side. And your lower body's doing that same infinity symbol of all the exercises. Good. Relax. Want another one? Okay. So this one's going to be on the side. We'll do single hand. And instead of going forward and back, or it'll be a different pattern. It's like reversing direction of the circle is the easiest way for me to say it. Okay? So we're just going to have our feet parallel. Have your left hand out because I'm mirror image. And you're going to come back. And then come forward like a palm strike. And then let it settle. And then bend the elbow so it comes near the ear. And like a palm strike. Shifting the weight. Shifting the weight. Feel the connection between your hips and shoulders. The driver is your lower waist or your pelvic girdle. It's not your hand. Your hand's just that kite following along on the string of your arm. Good. Let's switch to the other side. So the toe goes out a little bit on that side. Extend, sit the wrist. Come back. And then fold, go forward. One more. Good. Should we try both arms? We're good. Ah. Hey, it's almost like reverse reeling forearms if I was stepping backwards. If you have that in your Tai Chi style. Mind-body exercise. Really good, isn't it? Again, just think you have two side walls and the hand from behind comes in near the ear so that, you have a stronger strike in ahead. Like I tell my students, like somebody said something rude. Yep. Like, what'd you say? Oh, it wasn't nice. Make them pay. But I'm really a nonviolent person. Thanks to Tai Chi. That's my getting rid of the stress. One more each side. Good. Relax. So review. Single hand in front, either side, same side toe goes out. You can set and do double hand in front. You can do single hand moving back on one side, the other side, set them both, move back. Our last one was single hand going forward. It could be one hand only, or you can test yourself. But again, if you do Tai Chi, where does that come in, from that? Where's the forward one come in? Stepping forward to both sides. So thank you very much for your attention. I hope you enjoyed it.
Okay, so we're going to just begin the Tai Chi sword workshop. It's very, very, very basic. I'm trying to get people interested because we're starting a fencing club here. And it'd be a lot of fun to have more people come and join us. So we just want to give you right now some very basics on using a sword. How many people have held a sword before? One, we got a couple. So most people haven't held a sword, so that at least tells me where we have to begin. Let's talk about holding the sword. Okay, this is called a jian. It's a double-edged weapon. So the jian is sharp on both sides, so you never want to touch down and over here. For the handle, there's two ways to grip the sword. One is for wushu and demos and things like that. That would be mostly index finger and thumb, with the other fingers loosely holding it. Because you want the sword to live in your hand, right? You don't want the sword to be locked in real tight. You need to be able, the sword needs to be able to move in your hand. So, for wushu or just basic form work, a lot of people hold it this way. But this is not a traditional grip. The traditional grip is held with the two middle fingers. It's a much stronger grip, and your thumb will go over those fingers. Then these fall down. Okay? Sometimes it's hard to get your thumb all the way over. So you can just, the important thing is the strength of the grip is going to come from the two middle fingers. By having the top one loose and the bottom one loose, it gives a little play within your hand. Okay? If you hold it just like this and your sword gets hit, it's just going to fall out. It's just going to break loose from your hand. So you definitely want to get more strength this way. But if you're doing a demonstration, a regular form, and you're not looking at contact, this is okay like this. But that would be the index finger, okay? All right, let's talk about the sword. So let's get into, I'm going to teach you about ready position. So ready position is just put one foot back on a 45 and the other one forward. Front foot is toe. If you notice my heel is not down, my heel is up a little bit. Okay, that gives me a little spring forward and back. My sword is in front of me, starting from my straight out to this will be about nose height. Okay, so this is like a 45-degree angle. I'm protecting my front. Okay, a little further out, yes, and the tip down. Okay, this is the ready position. Okay? Your fingers, on the other hand, what is the other hand doing? These are called sword fingers. We're going to rest them on the wrist. We're not resting it there to balance chi or stretch tendons. We're putting it there to keep it behind the sword. You keep it behind the sword because the sword's your shield. You should never put any part of your body on the other side of your sword. All right? It's always got to be behind. This is a good way to keep your hand behind. Okay, everyone got that? So this is just called the ready position. Okay, in sword work, there's only certain basic cuts and basic deflections. So we're going to learn basic deflections first. So when I'm here, I'm going to coil down onto my back leg. My heel stays up over here. So when I do, I'm going to coil down. And as I do it, I'm going to turn my blade here. Okay, so you're turning, your hand will come to, it's just going to follow your center line. But we're turning the blade out. The reason we're turning it out is because we block with the flat side of the blade. So if I were to thrust it, kneel, it's going to, with the outside of the blade. So when we're doing the deflection, we're coming in here. We're not going big. We're not coming over here. If my opponent's over there, they're just going to turn around and hit me, right? I'm just going to come here. You only need to get that blade away from your, keep your sword between his blade and your body, all right? So this is a basic deflection. So we start here, turn, and as we turn, we coil out, and weight goes down here, right? Go back to ready. Remember, your weight is back. Yes, yes, yes. Coil and turn that blade. Go back. Coil and turn that blade. If you notice, when I'm turning, my tip isn't over here. Where's my tip? It's still mostly pointing in the direction of my opponent because that makes the follow-up so much faster. Okay? So when we're doing, we're not, remember, maintain good Tai Chi structure. So you're going to turn, and you coil down. So we're just sinking in, just like we do in many of our Tai Chi forms. Here, down. Okay. So that's the first deflection. We're not going to learn all of them today for obvious reasons. It's a one-year study. We got 20 minutes. So I'm going to just expose you to a few things. The second deflection. So how do we do it on the other side? Notice I'm asymmetric. I don't have a weapon on both sides. My feet are different. So how do we block on the other side? So we're here. We're going to block this way. Okay, remember, you're still coiling down onto that back leg. Okay, where's my tip? Pointing at my opponent. That's not down here, it's here. This is over the top. So this might be, so if I'm coming here, just leave it, I'm going to be coming this way for the counter, all right? So I'm getting to the inside, okay? So right now, we'll add the cut in a second here. This is just the deflection. Coil down, coil up. Coil down, and back. Coil down, and back. Okay. Any questions on this? Remember, we only have 20 minutes. All right. Now, when you see a sword fight, they're not just blocking, they're not just doing defense, they're striking too. And the thing you should always remember when you start using a sword like this is you don't really separate deflection and cuts. They're all one movement. There's only about 6 different deflections and 9 different cuts you need to know in order to be able to fence. The trick is manipulating your feet, having correct structure, making sure you control the cut all the way through. So here's cut number 1. It's called a Si cut, C-I, Si. It's a straight thrust. When we do this thrust, we're just going to, our weight will go forward today, and the blade will go horizontal. Okay? Back to center. Just, and back to center. For now, when you go forward, don't put your heel down. Keep that heel up. That gives you a lot of mobility. Now, what's happening with this hand over here? I'm just keeping it back and away. This actually does help a little bit more with balance, but you're not going to go this, you're not going to do this where you overextend yourself. My hand is far enough away from my opponent so it's not going to get cut. Right? And it just gives you a nice balance, but I'm on my front toe. My heel is still up. Okay? All right. All good? All right. What do you think we're going to do next? We're going to put a cut, a deflection with a cut in one movement. All right? Yeah. So Anita gets to be the victim. All right. Okay, so ready position. We're not going to do anything different than we haven't already covered. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to coil down and turn to our open side. And from here, we're going to, down here, when we uncoil from here, we're just going to thrust straight out. Heel up, yes. Go back, deflect, thrust, deflect, thrust, deflect, thrust, deflect, thrust, deflect. You turn your blade in this way, yes, that way. Remember, you want to block with the outside edge. Thrust. Block in, deflect. Remember, you want to control it. You don't want your blade over here. You want it pointing at your opponent, right? So you can go fast. So now try and do it as one move. Deflect, thrust. A little faster. Deflect, thrust. Remember, coil down, coil up. Coil down, coil up. Coil down, coil up. coil down, coil up. All good? I see smiles. If I don't see smiles, then it's not good yet. All right, everyone's all right. Okay. If you remember, the other deflection we were doing is this way, right? We can still coil down and then thrust out again this way. Okay? So from here, we're going to coil down, then thrust. If you notice, when I'm doing this, I'm going to talk about the 4 parts of a cut in a second. You align your blade and then you thrust. You will not penetrate a plastic bottle with a sharp sword if you're twisting it and trying to go in. It's just going to bounce off. The sword will not cut if it's rotating. All right? So you always have to cut. You align the tip and then you do your thrust. Okay? So this brings up now, what are the 4 parts of a cut? We've already covered most of them. Number 1, a cut includes the deflection. We don't separate them. It's just like yin and yang. You don't separate yin and yang. They're forever there. They're bound together. Where there's yin, there's, yang is coming back. So it's a constant cycle, right? So there is no deflect and cut, deflect and cut, deflect and cut. A cut includes the deflection, right? So the part number 1 is you deflect. Part number 2 is you align. Part number 3 is you cut. And part number 4 is making sure you maintain control of the tip. When we do thrust, we don't do this and then let it go. You always have to maintain the tip control. Okay? So we're going to come back. Lock. Okay. Thrust. Other side. Deflect. Thrust. Remember to use your weight. Come down, sink in. Thrust. Deflect. Thrust. Okay. Sink. Thrust. Sink. And thrust. Do you know what's a really good sword if you're at home? It's an empty wine bottle. It's got a good grip, and it's got enough weight to it. You don't have to have a sword in your hand to do these exercises or to practice. Anything that resembles, or anything you could put, oh, there, Mark will show you. There's a good sword for the house. Look at that. It's perfect. It's got good weight to it. It's got a good grip to it. The only thing it doesn't have is an edge. So you got to, in your mind, think about what are the edges. But any type of bottle like this is a good substitute. Thanks, Mark. Okay. All good. So we only have a few more minutes. So if we just remember, we have these kind of cuts. Right? We're doing this just to got the other cut. Yeah, but P is done with the other deflection. Right. All right, we're gonna do one more thing here. Okay, the other way to block. So if you notice in this one, I go to the outside edge and my tip is up. I can also turn here this way and turn my tip down. Okay? So when I go down, I'm also going to block with that edge. Okay? So go back to ready. Remember, your sword's in front of you, not to the side. Tip's not down, tip's not over here, tip is here. 45 degrees, pointed at your opponent. Weight back, front toe, right? We're going to turn and just turn essentially just let the blade come down and turn out so you got flat side over here, all right? When you come back this way, don't let your elbow wander past the edge of the blade. What happens? Your opponent's sword is right here if you deflected. If your elbow's back there, he's just going to go up and cut you right there. So when you come back, keep that elbow behind your sword, not out here, here. Okay? Go back. Deflect. and back, go back. Deflect, and go back to center. Deflect, and back. This deflection is used a whole lot. But the tip is down, and elbow, the big thing is that elbow. Don't let it come out over here. Keep it behind your blade. Remember, your blade is your shield. Always keep your shield between you and your opponent. And back, okay. Okay, now we're going to add what's called a P cut. This is the second type of cut. P is a chop. So it's a percussive cut. This is point in, going right through, skewering whatever you can. The next one is a chop. So by percussive, I mean it's coming down. Now, percussive cuts don't just come down. I don't just do this. They come down, I forget, it's almost elliptical because it goes out, and so when it's coming down, it's also going out. So you get, it comes down and then it continues to slide forward. So if you get the person's shoulder, you're still cutting in to the muscle, right? So when we do our P cut, here I'm going to start this way. We're going to go to the block. If you notice, this is all set up to come back over the top, right? And P cut, right? Deflect, over the top, and P cut. Deflect, over the top, and P cut. I don't know if we're out of time. I'll let them tell us. We'll keep going. Right? Okay, now let's put the two together. And again, normally I would teach this a lot slower and we'd have a whole lot more repetition. But I'm just trying to get you exposed to this because we do want people interested. We do want people coming to class learning the basics so that when we get our, as we get our fencing community growing, we'll have more people to fight with. Okay. So we're going to start here. So in the ready position, everyone know ready position. Where's your weight? Back foot. Where's your toe? Or your front heel is up. Okay, so the first one we're going to come block, thrust, circut. Block down, let the tip go down. Coil back, P cut. Okay, back. Circut. Tip goes down, deflect, P cut. Deflect in, thrust. Lock down, P cut. Deflect in, thrust. Down, P cut. In, out, in, out. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now some of you are probably saying to yourself, I can go this way. What do I do on this side? How do I do? We can't deal with the side today because it's one of the harder deflections because you have to come in this way. Right? So it's a much harder move to deflect that way on this side. But there is a move there, so you can do that and P cut that way. So you can go, and then you can put it all together. I'll just show you what that looks like. So, right? Here, and here, 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 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's a lot of it. That is, I mean, that's too much to cover today. I don't expect you to remember it. What I do expect is someone will say, I want to come to this class. All right. And say, I want to learn how to use one of these things.
you. Thank you all. Thank you all so much for being a good sport. Thank you for coming and doing it on this squishy mat that is like really hard to balance on. Thank you for coming together and trying something even it might not be your style and doing it together. Thank you for sharing your practice with us. I'm actually so happy that we have an opportunity to collaborate with the Colchester World Tai Chi Qigong Day this year. We've never been able to do this because we've had separate events, but this year, because Mother Nature didn't cooperate, I think Mother Nature actually knew better than us by reining us all out. Thank you all so much, and thank you, folks, watching. So, we had about, at any given moment, about 50 people on Twitch watching, and also YouTube, we had about 30. I didn't really check the count ongoing, but every time I checked in, like 40 or 50 folks over on Twitch that were watching. We're fortunate that we have multiple events happening in Connecticut. A lot of people don't have any, so this was an opportunity to share it with folks online. So thank you for joining. That concludes our program.